You're a startup founder. You think your product is amazing and feel like more people should be buying, but the road is long and slow. It feels like you're stuck. There's always one thing I ask startup founders. Have you talked to your customers? They almost always say, heck yes, we talk to our customers all the time. But what I find is they're either selling or trying to improve their product. These are not customer-focused conversations. If we can get curious about our customers, then we can uncover critical insights that will help us build to the next round. I'm Anna Firmenov, and welcome to Building with Buyers, a show about startup growth where I'll explore how customers help startups build to the next round. Hi, welcome to the show. I have with me here Peter Mollins. He is the VP of Marketing at Nooks. And Nooks is, let me try to explain what this product does. So Nooks boosts pipeline with AI assistants that automate the busy work of dialing, coaching, and prospecting. So it's really for sales reps. It's so sales reps can focus on the human side of selling. I love that. I am always trying to focus more on the human side of everything.
Right.
So, yeah. And in terms of sales and selling, like human side is very important. So, welcome to the show, Peter. Glad to have you here.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Anna. It's great to be on the show and to talk with you about this topic.
Yeah. And it's a very exciting time for Nooks because you guys raised Series B funding, I believe, in October. So, congratulations on that.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I'd love to talk about that a little bit more, raising that round. But let me just give a little bit of background for what I'd love to explore with you. So I'm looking into the role that customers play in helping startups build to the next round. And so I love bringing on startups that actually have built to the next round and did raise the next round, right? Just a little bit though, before we kick off, I find that when I say like the role that customers play, typically I'm talking about how do you bring your customers into your business strategy, into your marketing strategy, into your positioning and messaging and customer research and using those insights across the board, right? And I find that when I say that, sometimes there's a little bit of confusion. So yeah, we do customer research. Sales talks to customers all the time. Or yeah, we do customer research. Product talks to customers all the time on product and product features. When I talk about it, it's more of the customer research where you really dig into who is this person? What do they do at work? And how does that tie into the value that we could provide them with our product? So great. Now that we're kind of level set there, let's talk about your recent funding round. Can you tell me more about like Series B is tough to raise that round. What did it take to get there?
You know, I think it really does tie back to the focus of your series, which is around customers. Nooks just places such a strong emphasis on making sure that our customers have a great experience right from before they even know us, right through the selling process, through to close and beyond. And so what I mean about, even before they know us is from like a marketing perspective, we want to make sure that we are pushing out value to the general community of account executives, sales development representatives, and their sales leadership. They're pushing out value about best practices, what we're seeing in the data, things that can be helpful for them to be more productive and more efficient. So even before they become a customer, I think it's very important to support them. I know we'll talk about each of these kind of steps in more detail as we kind of go through, but once you actually start engaging with them, can you make sure that the marketing process of getting interest is also valuable? So again, not only sharing best practices, but sharing stories and ideas from customers themselves back to potential customers during the sales process, making sure that it's not just a sales team blasting the prospect with pitches, but a sales process that actually where they come out and they think, you know what, we generated a value, we generated meetings, we booked pipeline during the sales process. Like that kind of getting an ROI during a sales process I think is an incredible way to convince people to move forward. And then post-sale, making sure that their voice is heard, that you're taking their feedback and pushing it back into the product, and not only the product, but the whole experience in general. So I think if I were just to summarize that, it's around listening. It's listening to customers and prospects and understanding what they're saying about what's valuable to them.
Yeah. Well, I started going into this realm of the role of customers and the role that they play in helping startups build to the next round.
Hmm.
And you're the first one so far that I've had. You're the first person from a company so far that's like raised a recent funding round.
Hmm.
And so I'm just curious, like, as I ask again and again, and like, what does it take to get there?
Hmm.
There are many things that it took to get there. You could say, like, we have a great team filled with smart people.
Right.
We got help from our investors. We made some strategic decisions and it turned out to be those were the right ones. And also the market was primed for what we were putting out there. And it could go on, but I'm really trying to understand, like, how much of a part do customers play in
Hmm.
helping to raise the next round? Beyond revenue, of
Right.
course, right? You need
Right.
customers in order to show that you're actually making money so that you can go back and raise the next round. But even beyond just revenue, how does it become this flywheel of they purchased
Hmm.
and now we're actually still going back to them and doing something with our customers that is helping to create more pipeline and revenue? It's like a wheel, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the key that in my mind is you can be radically focused on the customer. Of course, you should be. But making sure that you just never take those customer relationships for granted. And that's something that we are just constantly investing in those relationships to make sure that they feel like their voice is heard in terms of improving the product, improving the sales process, improving all the things around there. So some of the ways that I think we go about that are, for instance, customer advisory boards. I mean, that's sort of a standard, but making sure that you are getting users into discussions about how they're using the product, what kind of value they're generating from it, where their problems lie, being very honest about what are the challenges within the product that aren't delivering the value that you want. And so being comfortable hearing unvarnished opinions about what works and what doesn't is super important. And I think when you have those customer advisory boards, you have to make sure that you're getting lots of different perspectives. Small companies, large companies, depending on what your market is, different users. If your product is like it targets ICs, so individual contributors, like in our case, sales development reps are principal users as well as account execs. But there's also managers. Managers are looking at reporting to see what are best practices for outbound calling. They're looking to see how they could use the call scoring in order to coach more effectively. They're using AI training bots in order to make sure that reps are onboarded and trained effectively on new messaging and objection handling. And so you need to bring in multiple levels in order to have those customer advisory boards be effective. So yeah, that's sort of the first thing that I think of is making sure that you have a wide enough spread across users in order to understand what exactly are the needs that they have.
who do you listen to the most? Like, who do you give weight to? Like, who do you care about the most? You have all of these different folks that you're talking to, big companies, small companies, the users, then one level removed maybe from users, and then like somebody that's their boss, which is even higher. So, who do you listen to?
The listening, I think, has to be equal. It's more like what you do with that information afterwards. So, because you may end up going down a different path that you didn't expect. And if you're not listening fully to the feedback because of a current focus, then you may be missing what's around the corner. So, I think of tools that were principally individual contributor focused that then realized that the data that they were generating from those ICs was super important and managers wanted to consume that. Like if they were only focused on, one group, to the exclusion of another, those kinds of products might not have identified reporting as being an important next value add for them. So, yes, I think that you can spread yourself thin, but I think listening to as many people as possible, collecting those viewpoints, and then making strategic decisions offline about where to emphasize is a good approach.
Who do you focus on with how you're positioning yourself and messaging? Is it to the SDRs or is it to the person that's making the buying decision? How do you think about that?
There are multiple levels. So the folks that are actually using the product on a day-to-day basis to make outbound calls are the SDRs. And of course, we want their experience to be exceptional. So that means great connect rates so that when they get on the phone with someone, they have great conversations, great conversions to meetings. And then at a manager level as well, making sure that they have the data, the tooling that they need in order to help to guide their teams. So we do focus on both levels and try to make sure that we're hearing as much as we can. And if I step back like a bit, like I don't want to be overly focused on like the idea of product research. I want to think also about understanding where folks, before they've even made a decision, what is the kind of information they're looking for in order to make their decision, and where are they going to consume that information. That's another area that I think is really valuable to probe with your customers is what forums do they go to? What events do they go to? Are they in certain communities? What questions are they asking? How do they evaluate these kinds of solutions? And so I think like the idea of customer advisory boards are just as useful for top of funnel as they are for product improvements.
Yeah. And so you talked a little bit about how you incorporate customer research at Nooks. You've got some of that coming from your customer advisory board. You've got some research that's centered around even before they're making their decision. Let's understand, where do these people search? How do they get information? Where do they hang out, right? Online, offline. So you want to have like a more holistic understanding. Any other goals you have with doing customer research?
So understanding like the channels that they get information from, the kinds of questions that they're asking, those are certainly fundamental. Understanding like the general pains that are involved and how that changes over time. We of course see that as time goes on, different outreach mechanisms work better or worse. New tools come into play, new approaches come into play. So I think understanding the market dynamics is also super important so that you can see how people are operating on a day-to-day basis, and you can adjust positioning likewise to match that. But I think just to summarize that is it is understanding pains as well. So I didn't really cover that, but understanding what prompted you in the first place to go do the research or even to answer the phone when one of our own SDRs calls you. You know, why would you answer that phone? And it has to be a pain that's prominent for you.
What do you do with this research? Sounds like listening is something that you value. It's
Mhm.
something that you really value, and customer listening is important to you. And I love to hear that. And I think that's a big part of Nook's success. What would you say have been the results of listening and learning? And what have you like actually implemented from that?
Yeah, it's funny because it actually comes full circle. The way I think about it is if we're listening to our customers and helping to amplify their voice, whether that's amplifying it back to the market so that they feel heard in the market or seen in the market, amplifying it back into the product where there's, enhancements that are made, and we're very, very quick to make enhancements. When you see all those things happening, the result that I think is most exciting is actually the customer's result. So if you see a new product feature get rolled out, and that's based on customer feedback, and then 2 months down the line, you re interview them and they've tripled their pipeline as a direct result of that, that's the win. The revenue growth, all of that is fantastic. I'm not going to say no to that. But what's exciting for me is seeing the customer saying, we want this, or this is important to us, and then seeing the end result coming out the other end for them. So I think that that's where that radical focus on customer listening and then focusing on the value that those customers are generating, it just comes full circle. And, everyone benefits as a result, but you have to be focused on what's the outcome for the customer.
Okay, I love that. We're kind of talking about this a little bit already. When you're listening to your customers and incorporating that into your product and incorporating that into your marketing, it all kind of ties together. What other ways do you incorporate your customers in your marketing? Can you give like some specific examples?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of the standard ones that you'd expect, like customer case studies, video tutorials or video testimonials, excuse me, those kinds of things. But when I think about our audience is they're very smart, they're growing in their careers very quickly. They want to learn from each other. They're in the sales field, and so they're quite comfortable. Oftentimes, many of them are quite comfortable with their personal brands and wanting to expand those personal brands. So beyond success stories and the like, we see a lot of results from user generated content. So we have done a lot of programs that focus on our users interacting with our product or with other aspects of the company. So give you an example. Earlier this year, we had the launch of our AI training bot. So basically what that is it's a bot that simulates customer conversations, prospect conversations.
This is the coolest thing. Someone just told me about this, and I think there are other players in the space, not just you guys, right? Like this is becoming a very competitive, very much needed thing where it's really, and he let me listen to it too, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
if you haven't heard this is super cool. It feels like you're talking to a human.
mhm.
And can you guys also make it like a rude human versus a nice human versus, I don't know if
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah, absolutely. You can tune
you
it.
can.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
You can tune it. Right. And that's
right.
just like crazy because then you don't have to waste your dials and make mistakes and waste it. And then someone's like pissed off and never wants to talk to your company again.
Right.
You coach with the AI bot
Mhm.
that you can tune it to the level of rudeness. I
Right.
think this is
Right.
just amazing and get coaching based
Right.
on the result of that call. So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I just am
No, no.
wowed by it.
Oh, it is amazing. And, I think what's really interesting too is that you can have it trained on the prospect calls that you are making yourselves. So my team has made 1,000 calls. I can then make an aggregate essentially of those calls and tune it to my heart's content. And then that can be for onboarding, for training, for getting the rust off in the morning, etc. But what we've done with that from a customer perspective is it's accessible on our website, so people can go and use it right now. And so we had user generated content programs where you would try to book a meeting with our rudest bot. I don't know if I can say his name, but you can bleep me out if you want to. His name is Jim Hardass. And
I'll mark the episode as explicit. It's okay.
explicit. Yeah, thank you. So you try to book a meeting with him while eating, actually, I have it right here, while eating some of our own hot sauce. And trying to book a call with him is difficult enough, but doing it while your mouth is on fire is exceptionally difficult. So, getting people involved is just great. We love to engage our audience because, again, it's fun and they're just a great audience to interact with.
I've worked with many SDRs in my career and they're just so hungry. They're so hungry. They're so eager. They're ready to learn and get better. And they're just putting in a lot of time and effort and commitment. The good ones are,
Right.
and they're maybe younger too. And so they're just more open to tools like this. And
Mm,
I love that they're also, if they are open to creating content and getting more visible at their company and just talking about you guys, right? And how they're able to do a really great job at work with the
mhm.
use of this tool. It just seems to be very aligned with how you want to create content with your target user. So,
That's exactly right. It is a
yeah.
great audience to collaborate with. And, again, like I think the key for us is never take that for granted. Always make sure that we're pushing value out to them and that we're amplifying their voices, not just ours.
Yeah.
And I think like back to your original point about sort of what's the mission for Nooks, it's about automating that busy work that's associated with the dialing, with the coaching, with the prospecting. And that has a purpose. And the purpose is to allow these SDRs, their leadership, the account execs to focus on, as you mentioned, the human side of selling, because there is so much. And we know that the most effective sellers of the future are going to be the ones that are able to not be focused on all this time consuming, rote manual work, but they're able to focus on building great relationships with their prospects, empathizing with their needs much better, being able to communicate things that are hyper customized in a very human centered way, being able to build those relationships. And you can't do that if, you're letting busy work get in your way. And so that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah. It's great to talk to you, especially as you guys just raised your Series B round and hearing things coming from you like around human side, right? And also listening and listen to that's like very human, right? So
Mhm.
you're building an AI tool, but you're still able to step back and think about the human side of marketing, the human side of
Right.
your business and like understanding your customers and how do you then work that into your business strategy and marketing strategy? So I think that this has been such a valuable conversation in that respect. And we'll see how the other recently funded startups I talked to, how they answer the question. But what I'm hearing from you is like a lot of the fact that you guys successfully raised the next round, a lot of it ties back to how you focus on your customers and what you do with them and how you think about them and the customer advisory board and the research questions that you ask and how you incorporate that back into your product or your marketing. So
Mhm.
Awesome. We have a little bit of time here, and I like to ask if you have any questions for me.
Oh, I'm really interested to hear about all these future guests as well. And so I don't know if you're able to tell me who else is going to be on the show.
Oh, I don't think I've ever, and I've had my podcast since November 2020, and no
Yeah.
one's ever asked me, like, can you tell me who else is coming on the show?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's never been a question. But let me just look at my nifty little sheet here. I'm actually recording another episode today with a startup that also recently raised around. They're called Hummingbirds.
Hmm.
I will be talking to, and I've recorded already. So December has been like heavy on recording
Hmm.
stuff that will go live in January. So Tofu, I don't know if you've heard about Tofu
Hmm.
with Elaine Zelby. I've already talked to a company startup called Mook Test. There's a bunch.
That's great.
Yeah, there are a bunch coming up and they're all over. A lot of them are seed funded, some Series A, some Series B, some Series C, some Chili Piper. You've probably heard of them.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Chili Piper will be on. So I'm really excited. I'll be talking to some experts around customer research as well. The person that came up with jobs to be done, because I
Mhm.
think there's some things that I would love to explore with him. I hear that all the time. By the way, do you use jobs to be done? Have you heard of that? Is
Oh,
that
sure.
something that,
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's very impressive talking to him. It's a great concept. Yeah.
Yeah, it ties back into the work that I do. And I never called it jobs to be done. And I would love to just like learn more about how he came up with that framework. And
Right.
it just comes up in lots of my conversations. And I think there's a lot of overlap. So I'm just curious, what is the overlap versus where he takes it in a different direction? So,
Right. Oh, that would be fascinating.
Peter, this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate your time and I love that question. And thanks for joining me. I
Oh, of
think
course.
that, Nooks, I've been chatting with the founder since early on, and I'm really excited to see the trajectory for you guys and rooting for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. This has been a real pleasure to talk with you. And like I said, I mean, it's just so key to make sure that you're just always pushing value out to those customers. And so pleased to be with a team that's not only super smart and super hardworking and innovative, but one that really deeply cares about their customers.
They do. They really do. All right. So if anybody wants to find Peter, he's on LinkedIn, Peter Mollins. And if you want to check out Nooks, you should. You can go to nooks.ai. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Building with Buyers. New episodes drop weekly, so make sure you're following wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anna Furmanov. Visit my website to learn more about how to turn customer insights into positioning and messaging your buyers will understand. FurmanovMarketing.com. And don't forget to leave a review if you're loving the show.